Hey guys, so it's Shane Catchball here from Into Profits. Today I want to talk through how to make your first hires on Amazon in your business. Whether you are a beginner or advanced, there will be something here for you to take away that will enable you to hire great talent for your Amazon business. So I created this document. I've just refined it a little bit, but I actually created this for a friend of mine, a businessman, and to go about hiring, particularly out of the Philippines, but also internationally. So I've ran 50 of these processes. I've ran some in-person processes. I've ran online processes. I've ran processes in India, Indonesia, Philippines, and then to a lesser degree in Europe as well. So I'm going to go through and try and give an overview of this, something that you can implement today that will get you great talent for your Amazon business. So the first one here is, as I said, to run this process about 50 times and gotten pretty good at it, I have to say. At this point, there is one book that I'd recommend, and that is Who, the A Method for Hiring. So this book is foundational and gives you an in-depth understanding of the whys behind a lot of this process. So I'll leave that for you. So let me just continue on here. So yeah, 4 stages here. First stage might be a little bit more obvious, but it's important nonetheless. I don't think you should overlook this stage. So the 4 stages are the application and cover letter, the phone interview, the technical assignment, and the final interview itself. So the first one here is, as referred to in the book as well, the Who book, is building your scorecard. And why is it called a scorecard and not just a job listing? It sounds almost just like wordplay. It's not. The reason it's called a scorecard is because you want to define the outcomes that you're looking for this candidate to hit. So that might be manage or lead advertising of 100K budget per month portfolio, or it might be build content for 10 listings, or it might be reply to all support tickets and achieve a 95% feedback rating, or a 4.8 star product rating, things like this. But the reason it's good to define it is because with that numerical outcome, you're looking to assign probability in the hiring process. So you're looking to remove the emotion, not all of the intuition, but at the start, particularly if you've not hired before, quite frankly, your intuition is going to be wrong. That's just the way it is, because liking someone does not mean that they're a suitable candidate for the job. And a lot of people will go with what they like as opposed to what is the most likely candidate to achieve all of the outcomes on your scorecard. So very important that you have that in mind, and very important to build out a scorecard properly. So what a scorecard would have at the start, obviously, is the main requirements. Then it will have the main requirements, then it will have the outcomes, and then it will have the bonus nice to haves. So you have your job overview, requirements, outcomes. Again, be objective, be quantitative here if you can, because that will allow you to assign probability to each candidate. And then the bonus nice to have, the things that would obviously be really great. So I just want to bring it back here and show through the scorecard, because I just pulled one up, and I will attach this in the a link as well in the bottom of the YouTube description, so you'll be able to check this out. So you'll see at the top, like I mentioned, we've got a brief job description here, where we're just describing the role simply. We've got benefits. Again, you can think of this like an Amazon listing, in that you want to point out some of the benefits of working with you, what the role entails, who they'll be working with, etc., etc. The next one here is requirements. So these are the basics that need to be a part of every application. And then further, we've got the outcome, so we need it. So you'll see, the outcomes should be quantifiable, as in we've got here complete onboarding training. Again, it's very easy to know if that's done or not done. Develop relationships with IP departments and clients to excel. So again, this one's a little bit more subjective, but it's still very important that people are developing relationships with internally and externally, because the hires we see at least for this role, obviously we're talking about an advertiser role in an agency here. That would be a key part of that, having great relationships. So we can assess that in the hiring process. How good is their communication? How good are they at building rapport with you, the interviewer? Because obviously it will be the same when they're talking to team and to clients as well. The next one here is lead X clients. So again, depending on what you wanted here, advertising by the end of 2024, or maybe lead the sales if you're hiring internally for your Amazon business. Maybe it's lead the sales to, I don't know, $1 million or $10 million with a 10% TACOS or ACOTS, you know, or something along those lines. The more specific, the better you're going to be able to assess if they will be likely able to hit that. So be specific. The next one here, we've got like contribute 5 new advertising systems based on market feedback. And then finally, take part in a media machine content, which is our outreach on YouTube, and lead client meetings. So again, these are key areas that I would be assessing throughout the hiring process. And like I mentioned as well, then we'll have like a bonus we love it section. So that would be, just things that maybe are nice to have, but not critical. So that would be, in this instance, would be Excel VBA to create macros. So this is something we've looked for in the past in hiring advertisers. And then, like I say, resume and cover letter, tell me why you're good fit for this role. We look forward to hearing from you. So that's what I mean by the scorecard here. The other thing as well is ask them to send a cover letter, and along with their CV or resume. And what I always ask on this is for them to tell you why they're a good fit for this job. Because particularly if you're hiring for an Amazon business, chances are you might be hiring out of the Philippines or India or Asia, Eastern Europe, places like this, that people will apply for a job, for any job. They're not necessarily looking to apply for your job. So what I'm looking for people to tell me in the cover letter is why they want this job at your company. So very important, small caveat, but very important. So that doesn't mean that I would ignore all of the ones that don't. Again, you're looking for a range of things, and I'll touch on some of this a little bit later on. But I would obviously put preference at an early stage to people that have wrote out specifically why they want this job. You know, it shows that they're intentional about applying. The next one here we've got, so onlinejobs.ph is number one platform for permanent full-time hire. And you can put your scorecard up there. Again, as I said, tell them why they want this job. The next one here is after receiving 25 plus candidates. So if they're receiving 25 applications, then you can avoid 10 people to phone interview. So this is the funnel that I would use, or the numbers behind it, because you quite simply need to have enough volume in order to run a full process. You know, if you do not have enough volume, then it simply won't work as well. You don't have as much to compare. Can it work? Of course it can work, but the more data you have, the better. So it makes sense to fill the funnel, particularly at the start of qualified candidates. So you're inviting them to a phone interview. Now the phone interview is a 30-minute call where you're looking to check obviously their communication skills, their English, their initial experience as a match. You're looking to also for them to name one weakness as well, because as a part of the questions we will be looking to see if they have self-awareness. Someone without a weakness, everyone has weaknesses, but the person that doesn't know their weaknesses is not self-aware, and they would not be a good fit for my company, generally speaking, because self-awareness and knowing you have to learn and being humble enough to learn is a key characteristic. So the next one here, I mean, if you have an employee at this stage, again, this is more for if you don't, it can still work. I mean, I ran probably 20 of these processes by myself, so it's not a case that you need to have an employee at this point. If it's your first hire, then it's not necessary. However, I would use the notes. So I'm going to attach, let me come back in here. So the phone interview, the template here again will be in the link below. But again, following a very similar layout, because it's important that the interview has a structure to it, that the hiring process has a structure, because then you can compare and contrast candidates. If you are using off the hip, thinking that you're going to do one interview and kind of feel out the candidate with no prior knowledge of them, it's just not going to work. You're going to end up getting it wrong many times. So that's why it's important to have structure. It's actually important to have structure for another reason, which I will talk about a little bit later on, maybe the most critical reason. Okay, so you'll see here one of the processes we ran. Again, with the phone interview, nobody gets the job based on a phone interview, but what we are looking to do is assess their communication and assess some key things. But the questions are quite basic, So first, you see that they understand the process, very simple. The next one here, career goals. So have they thought out career goals? Are they studious? Do they plan? Are they intentional about what they want to do? So very simple, career goals. The next one's, what are you good at professionally? So again, very simple, but we're looking to match their strengths with the outcomes of our scorecard. So if someone was to sit there and say they're great at bookkeeping and accounting and financial analysis, yet you're hiring someone to answer customer tickets, obviously that's a mismatch. Now, that would be obviously a very strange situation if you were getting that person into the hiring process. But I think it makes the point well. You're matching the strengths to the scorecard. The next one here I like to ask, just as a throw-in, is would you consider yourself competitive? Because I think some people today are like almost anti-competitive. I don't know if that's kind of like the little bit woke maybe, but some people are like anti-competitive, and therefore good to know that at that point. I think you should at the very least be competitive with yourself. So like it says here, likes to challenge yourself. It doesn't have to necessarily mean you're out there competing on the world stage, but do you like challenging yourself? Do you like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations? Those are key things that will be important, because coming into any new job is can be uncomfortable, or it is uncomfortable. So have the willpower to go through that. Okay, so the next one here is, what are you not good at or not interested in doing professionally? So this is the weaknesses thing. Again, you wonder why they ask it in every hiring process, and I only understand that now after having gone through many. But you're looking to see self-awareness, or at least what I'm looking to see is self-awareness here, because people that come in to work with me are going to learn. That's guaranteed. I'm going to make them better as employees and as professionals, and hopefully personally, but at least professionally. So they've got to have a degree of humility and to do that. So that's why it's good to see if they have weaknesses, because everyone has weaknesses. Next one here is their job role. So this is also a key point, because this is brought up later in the hiring process. And what I ask here is, I basically look at the resume and I'll jot down the name of their company. Now I've taken it out obviously here. The name of the company and the title. And then I go through and ask them to tell me who their boss was in the role and how they would rate your performance on a scale of 1 to 10. That's it though. We don't need to go in too deep. This maybe is a little bit deep. But the whole idea here is to get a touch point on what their boss would think of them if you're talking to them, because these can come up on the reference checks as well. So it's important to get gauge on these now, so that obviously candidates are not going to lie to you, of course. So good to see this again. Are you looking for anything in particular? Obviously hire is generally better, but everyone has bad jobs. Everyone goes through a bad patch in their career or in life. So I don't necessarily rule people out if they write a 6 or a 7, because maybe there's genuine reasons, and that would be a positive for them to tell you that. They're being very honest. But obviously, if it's a case where every role was terrible, then that's a red flag, because then you look at the lowest common denominator there, and that's likely the person and not the jobs itself. So yeah, you go through that and you ask them what they'd rate it. Sometimes they'll give you a bit further on this. That's okay to note it down for reference later. Again, very similar. Who's your boss? Now this just has made up names, but I would obviously put in the actual boss, because we then ask them about that later on the final interview. Okay, so the next one we've got here is, so yeah, do this in chronological order as well, like go back and then come forward. People can think better through that chronological order, as opposed to if you're bouncing around on the resume, it's going to confuse people. So yeah, that's the part. Then the next one here is asking about salary. And the reason I do that, at least in my experience on likes of online jobs and other job sites around the world, people will sometimes vastly overestimate not overestimate. They'll write down salary demands that are really high in their like profiles, but it's oftentimes not what they expect when they start the role. I don't know if it's like career people telling them to do this, or I don't know. It's a strange one. But I would kind of ignore their profile, particularly online jobs, and I would ask them specifically for this role what their salary expectations are, just to get a more accurate viewpoint. Again, is there any wrong or right answer here? Sometimes people can put too low on this, and sometimes they can put too high, whereby the salary expectations vastly exceed the budget you have for this job, and therefore it makes no sense for them, for their time or for our time, to bring them any further. So make sure you're asking this at the phone interview stage, whereby you don't waste time. The next one here is obviously just questions. So have they got any questions? Generally, it's obviously good if a candidate has questions. It shows interest. If they have no questions, would I rule them out completely? It depends on how the rest of the interview has gone, because what you're always looking to do is not analyze based on isolated incidents, but look at what picture they're painting for you. So if they have 4 or 5 red flags, or 4 or 5 things where they're being honest, but it's really bad on them, then maybe they're telling the truth. Versus if they were honest in one situation that it didn't go well, maybe that's a genuine something that they failed at, or something that they made a mistake at, and that's fine. So you've got to look at the picture they're painting and not analyze based on any one thing, So the next thing I do at the bottom here is simply have notes and a conclusion. Again, the phone interview, you're really checking if they're going to the next stage. You're not hiring anyone based off a phone interview, unless you're an idiot. So don't do that. But what I would do is basically then assess. Obviously, if you're on the interview yourself, then just write a figure down. Again, good to have a figure behind this, and just write yes if you're going to bring them to the next stage. And then towards the end you can compare. So I will attach this, as I said in the link below. For now, let's move back in. So you've done your application and cover letter process. You've done a phone interview. You've ruled out those that haven't got good communication, maybe don't have the characteristics at this point, and you're moving on to the next stage. Now, what is the next stage? So the next stage is, that's phone interview. So after conducting the phone interview, then you want to create a technical. If you're enjoying the video, make sure you hit the like button below. Now back to business. Assignment, depending on the role, of course, but we have generally done technical assignments if we're hiring, let's say support managers or content marketers or advertisers, software engineers, other roles like that. We've generally done some sort of technical assignment, because it just allows you to see in practice how their skills are, and it allows you to do it in a way that doesn't take much of your time, because obviously you don't want to spend a lot of time on the wrong candidates. So I'll give you an example here. Now, this would usually be paid. We would pay them, depending on the role, obviously, pay them maybe a 2 or 3x their hourly rate if the assignment takes 1 hour, which is usually what it would take. I would not be given assignments that take longer than that, just to be respectful of people's time. But I would pay them for it. So, for example, if you were hiring a support manager and they were doing customer tickets, I would simply ask them to maybe record a video or write replies to the tickets. It's funny going through this now, I'm thinking of ChatGPT and how that has probably affected things. But I still think it's relevant, because I don't really see a problem if someone used ChatGPT in solving an issue. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's about how they leverage it. So if I presented 3 problems, let's say defects with the product, or 3 customer issues, and they have to respond to them, I don't have any issue with them using ChatGPT, as long as it doesn't sound like a robot. So again, that's probably fine too. But that would be support manager. If it's an advertiser, I'd ask them to carry out an advertising analysis or optimization, give them a spreadsheet with dummy data. If it's a content specialist, I'd ask them to carry out content projects, essentially, or a project, something where we can see what their technical prowess is at that point. So that's the technical assignment. I'll give them 2 days, or 3 days here to carry this out. And I'd also just ask them if they're carrying it out as well, because I think it's good to get kind of like permission to bring sales in a little bit. It's good that they confirm they're going to do it, because I think once people say that, then it means they likely do. If you don't get confirmation, you'll find people might drop off, as in they just don't prioritize it. So always ask, will they be carrying it out? Okay, finally, so that would bring us from 10 phone interviews to 5 technical assignments. Then what I would do is get 3 final interviews. 3 final interviews is totally fine for one job, in my experience. If you're obviously going to hire 2 people, then just double this and do 6, etc. The final interview is, and by the way, just as a caveat, try and keep this quite condensed as well. You don't want to give large gaps in between stages, because people will just drop off and they won't get or they just won't continue in the process. So try and keep it quite condensed in your scheduling. I think that's really important, to keep candidates in the process. So the 1 hour interview is comprised of 2 parts. Now in the Who book, they actually recommend doing 2 separate ones, but the Who book is a lot more on C-suite and leadership positions. So it depends on who you're hiring for. We've used both, but in this instance, I'm going to just talk you through how to do it in one interview, assuming that a 4-stage process is enough for you. I will take it as that. So yeah, this one I'd split up into half. First part is going to go through their job history. So you're going to go through their back through their job history in chronological order, but you're going to ask them deeper questions on it. And this is quite in depth, but you're going to ask them deeper questions. So what would, let's say they said their boss gave them a 9 out of 10, and his name is Bill. So what would Bill say was your biggest strengths in the role? What would Bill say is your biggest weaknesses? What was it like working for Bill? How would you rate the team you worked on? Why did you leave that job? So again, just getting that format out. Again, you can jot this down in a document here to do this. But the idea being is that whatever they said in the phone interview, you're able to back that up in the final interview. So it goes deeper, and it also allows you to get more information. For example, if there was a red flag, or if let's say they said 5 out of 10 on the phone interview, well then on the longer interview, I would go into that and deeper. Oh, you said that Bill gave you a 5 out of 10. Why would he do that? What were the weaknesses he's seeing? So you get to go quite deep into it, and it also plays out because you can really understand the candidate and really understand their job history. So that's a gold mine after stage 2. Quite simply, you get a lot of good data in there. The next one depends on the role and the experience level. So the second part would be based on the skill sets or characteristics. So quite simply, if you're hiring direct out of university or college, people are not going to have a great deal of experience. So in that instances, you're looking to do what is called a competency-based interview. And that is basically looking to get examples of times they've embodied the characteristics in the role you're looking to hire. So for example, if you were doing advertising, what I would simply say is, can you give me an example of a time you used your analytical skills to deliver a result, deliver a good result? And then they might pull up university or college or maybe a part-time job, something like that. So that's competency based, and you've got to look at the characteristics. So then you might say analytics, you might say worked hard, or this time they showed hard work. Again, you're checking their ability to work hard. You might say, can you tell me a time you learned a new skill? Again, shows that ability to take on, develop, and grow into a role. So that's the competency side. The other side is the skill-based side. So if it's an experienced hire, you're able to go a little bit deeper. So I would say someone with a lot of experience, if it's a leadership position, or someone where the candidates are out of university, let's say 5 years, 10 years, you can say something along the lines of, in your career, can you give me an example of a time you had, or in your career, give me the biggest win you have had in the area of analytics, or give me the biggest win you've had in the area of client delivery, and that way you're getting their direct experience from that, and that candidate should have that. You also might say in client delivery, give me your biggest failure as well, because again, we're seeing do they have that ability to be honest, because everyone fails in their career, everyone fails in life, that's very normal. And are they able to draw lessons from those mistakes? Because to me, success and the most successful employees we've hired and business partners, they've had an ability to take knocks and just keep moving forward anyway. So you're basically assessing for that right now. So again, either there's someone maybe fresh out of college or university, focus on the competencies. Give me an example of analytical skills. Give me an example of leadership, or give me an example you took charge of a project and delivered a good result, or give me an example, again, focusing on characteristics that people might innately have or have developed. And then if they have experience, then you can ask about the biggest wins in their career in the area of X, or the biggest losses in their career in the area of Y. Then it makes sense to go into that. So yeah, as I've basically set this out here to give you a little bit more context on that. But that's the final interview. So this interview can run like 2 to 3 hours. You need to be very careful because depending on the role, that's fine. But generally speaking, I would set it at an hour to an hour and a half for a low or mid-tier hire. If you're hiring obviously C-suite or executives or leaderships positions, then of course maybe splitting this, doing the job history in one block for 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, and then doing the sort of competency, skill set, experience in the second block. So that would be a separate stage. But I'm assuming you don't need that for your Amazon hire. Okay, so the next one here is so we have 3 people at the final stage for one role. The next one here is is making an offer. So if you've got a good candidate, then you can make an offer on the call. Quite simply, you can make a conditional offer. So for example, if we've done 2 interviews and there's 1 interview left, and I know that this candidate, based on speaking to them, is better than the other 2 and a much better fit, obviously it's easier to make an offer talking to them. So I would simply say, okay, look, I think you're a really good fit. I want to make you a conditional offer for the role, and then you can run through the details. Like, what do you say, or how does that sound to you? So this gives you the ability to negotiate live, which is a strength, because then it means that you have a better chance of securing the talent, securing the candidate, and also if they've given you their salary expectations at stage 2, you kind of know that they're going to accept anyway, or you should have a good idea. Bearing in mind there might be some final conditions that they'd like, which is fine. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below for future videos. Now back to business. So you can say, obviously this is subject to 2 professional references from past jobs. You can maybe ask for certain jobs. If there was anything particularly interesting about certain jobs, you can ask them to give you references from those. Should be no problem. And then obviously check the references. Very key. I know we've ran a pretty in-depth process, and we've given a lot of scrutiny, and that is for the benefit of the candidate and for your company, because it's making sure the candidate is a good fit, so that if they take the job, it's not a waste of their time. It's also making sure that the company, it's a good fit for the company, so you're not wasting your time having to fire more people, or to basically let people go that doesn't fit. So it's important to be I don't know, scrutinous a word, but and also checking the references too. So you can simply call them and ask them to back up what they've been saying, essentially. So yeah, making the offer. There's an example of that here. Then an online job contract. So yes, look, if you're hiring for let's say you're a European company or American company or wherever you are, and you're hiring in another country or another continent even, look, there's not much legal basis that stands up for in terms of laws. What I've always tried to do is basically adhere by the local laws in their country, because that's where they're from, that's what they're used to. So basically the job contract is basically putting in writing all you've discussed, the expectations, the obviously confidentiality, things like this, the vacation days, etc. Just so you both are seeing eye to eye on what the terms and conditions are of the role. Whether you have a probation period, also important. Usually run that 3 months. So yeah, putting that down in writing so that people sign it and understand what they're getting involved in, and vice versa for both sides. So again, it doesn't hold up much legal basis, but assuming you're a person of your word, which I would like to think you are if you're following this channel, then you will abide by what's in the online job contract anyway. Okay, post offer. So assuming they're all happy with that and you've secured your talent, yeah, obviously it makes sense to roll straight into an onboarding. Obviously not that day, but you can have an onboarding call then whenever it suits to start. Show them through your tools, show them through the company values, what's important in the company, and intro them to the team. This is a professional job and you've got a professional and high quality team, or if it's just you, that's fine as well. But it still makes sense to do an onboarding because people have got to feel valued, and it gives them the best chances of succeeding at the start, when it's maybe a little bit more tricky. Okay, there's a couple of more advanced ones here. So if you're hiring in the Philippines, this goes for pretty much all countries, to be honest with you. But if you already have a large team, or if you have the funds available, I would recommend using an assistant in the country you're hiring in. Again, this is not critical. As I said, I've done this myself probably 25 times without any assistant here. And it's also good for learning the process and getting experience doing it all yourself. But if you do have someone, I would use them just because, for example, if you're hiring in Indonesia, I would use an Indonesian HR person or even an admin, because they will understand things that is culturally significant. For example, a lot of Filipinos have all worked in BPO, which is like call centers, and there's certain things that obviously a Filipino will understand. Or if it's in India or Indonesia, there's certain cultural things that it helps or pays to have someone that understands if what the person is saying is a legitimate, for example, that might be like maybe there are certain holiday days or something like that, and if you have someone that's familiar with the country or from the country, they'll understand the sense around that. So again, not critical. You won't go wrong here, but if you can, it helps. So yeah, as I said, Indonesia, Indian, so yeah, I think one thing here is why we're going through this level of detail as well. One, obviously, as I said, make sure the fit is right, not just for your perspective, but for the candidate's perspective. The company, also with the process, lays out how the company is a prize. Like working for your company is a prize. That's why you are so meticulous in your approach, because you want to get great people to either start working in your company or to supplement the team you already have there. So the fact that everyone in your team knows that this is a process you run through gives them confidence in the people you hire as well. So it's just a knock-on effect, so very important. So if you hire like the rest of the morons on the internet based on one call, as they say, easy come, easy go, this is true. I know people that hire off one interview and stuff, like phone interview, absolute nonsensical. I'm not sure what signal you're sending to the person you're hiring, but it's certainly not a good one, that you're willing to hire people basically on the flip of a dime, and there's very little process. You don't even think about who you're hiring, essentially, versus making sure the fit is right for them, making sure the fit is right for you, making your company come across as a prize, which it is if you're doing things the right way, if you're going to help them develop, grow, and have success for them, for their family, then obviously go through a proper process. Okay, so they'll value you more as an employer. The goal is to come across a professional company that invests in your team, and you all have fun and work hard and have fun together. Yeah, of course. Make sure you ask their availability to start. This is important since a lot of people might already be working. It's important that you ask the availability to start, because sometimes they might say, oh, well, if you've already hired them, and then their let's say their motivation to basically work a shorter notice or negotiate a notice with their other employer is a lot less. So just ask, and that way you at least can make sure it works for you, rather than being like, okay, it starts in 6 weeks, whereas you need someone like in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So good to check. So if you're hiring more than one employee at a time, multiply the number of candidates in the pipeline. Okay, so this one's pretty self-explanatory. We started off with 25 plus candidates. We had 10 phone interviews. We had 5 technical assignments, and we had 3 final interviews. This is for one position. If you're hiring 2, if you're hiring 3 positions, then of course multiply this. You need a good funnel, or you need a good ample volume of candidates, of good candidates at the start. So you can use things like LinkedIn, online jobs, JobStreet, Indeed, all of these platforms that are used all around the world. And one other quick thing as well, depending on the country you're looking to hire from, and again, you can actually ask me about this, to be honest, because I do have experience in a lot of countries. But certain countries obviously use certain job boards. So if you want to get enough volume at the top of the funnel, you've got to use the job boards that are actually popular in those countries. Because there's no point going through all the effort, putting up a scorecard, etc., and putting it into a market, or let's say a platform where there's just no volume, because you're not going to get enough qualified candidates. So you can send me a message, reply to this, and ask for the top platforms in each of the countries. Either I will know, or I will know someone that can find that out. I'll try my best. Or alternatively, if you hire someone that is, let's say, a HR consultant in that country, they'll be able to tell you that. So that's one of the things they can tell you at the start. So finally, in summary, I'm really good at this, and that's not a brag necessarily. It's actually, I'm good because I've been so bad at it for so long. I've had crazy stories, or at least, crazy hiring stories, people flying around the country, etc. Things that have worked out, things that have not worked out. I will share those in a separate video, whereby I'll talk about some of the mistakes we've made and some of the shit that's happened, so that you can avoid those mistakes for your business and really get some great talent in that's going to help scale your sales and grow your company. So this really is a superpower, and you've got to take some time here. Of course, use what I've shown you today to give you a head start, but take the time here, go through this, and it will be an absolute superpower for you in business, for your career, but also it's very interesting how it applies to a lot of life as well. When you're sort of hearing what people say and then checking on a scale of 6 months, 1 year, many years, do they live up to what they say? It's interesting. All right, guys, I'm not going to go any deeper on that. The links for this will be at the bottom. Again, obviously we have the scorecard, we have the phone interview, we have the technical assignment, we also have the final interview, and then we have the offer and starting. So I hope this is helpful. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out this one right here so you don't make the same hiring mistakes that I did.